Hi there, Doc from Barcast Audio here today to talk with you about the 5 things I wish I knew about the bar exam essays before I started studying. Let's jump right into it. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to this channel for more of these videos. Be sure to check us out at barcastaudio.com. We have essay attack sheets, audio outlines, everything you could need for the bar exam, we have it there. Now, without further ado, the number 5 thing that I wish I knew about the bar exam essays before I started studying was that I wish I knew how important it was to see the forest for the trees. And what do I mean when I say that? There are, on the uniform bar exam, 6 essays you need to take within a 3-hour period. They are shorter essays, about half an hour each is attributed to or allotted to each of these essays. And I wish that when I first got started, I understood how important it is to not be single-minded in my approach to any of these essays. Understand that my score is going to ultimately be on the whole of these 6 essays, and not to necessarily get bogged down in any one essay. So many students who I see failing the bar exam don't get to one of their 6 essays. Maybe they spend way too much time on 1 or 2 of the essays thinking they just have to get that perfect answer out. But perfect is the enemy of good enough. You need to get to all of these essays. You need to understand the value of doing okay on 6 essays versus doing great on 3 and terrible on 3 essays. You need to understand and see the forest for the trees and know that going into your bar exam studies. So don't be single-minded. Don't get too consumed with one essay. Understand timing. Understand the importance of your whole grade, and don't get too bogged down. Our number four thing I wish I knew about the bar exam essays before I started studying was get comfortable being uncomfortable. I say this a lot. I repeat this all over the place in Barcast, my company, and our audio outlines, in a lot of these other videos. But the bar exam essays are all about being uncomfortable and getting comfortable with the idea of cold recall, just simply regurgitating facts quickly on command, and especially with the idea that there's going to be a moment, there's going to be at least one moment on the bar exam essays where you are faced with a question, a prompt that you are simply completely flummoxed by. You don't understand at all what they're trying to ask, and you still have to overcome that. You have to respond well from that moment on and understand and be confident in your studies enough to say, okay, I don't necessarily know what they're asking me here, but I think that this is what they're getting at. And then you have to regurgitate some kind of rule in which you incorporate the hypo itself and connect that to a rule, even if it is the wrong rule, because you can still score points that way. So get comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. And the only way you can do that is by doing practice essays and actually practicing and preparing under time conditions the way you would for the actual bar exam. Number 3 here is do not wait to start doing practice questions. Too often with the essays on the bar exam, students that I work with are waiting and waiting and waiting until they feel like they have a perfect or great understanding of the law. Listen, that moment is not going to come for a lot of students. You're never going to feel like you have a perfect understanding of the law, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't or can't start taking practice questions. I typically recommend that the first 1, 2, or 3 essays that students do, they just write out an answer from their bar exam course or from the sample answers that they have, just to get a sense of what an answer might look like. Now, your answer on the exam in all likelihood won't be as comprehensive as many of these samples, but these essays, these answers will give you the confidence to understand at least what you're sort of aiming for as you're going through the actual time conditions. Once you start doing that, then I recommend jumping into these time condition practice questions. Too often students wait and wait and wait, and then they only do a couple timed essays, and then they end up failing miserably on the bar exam to both manage their time and not simply collapse from the panic of having to regurgitate so much cold recall, so many rule statements, and connect those hypos under these intensely timed conditions. So don't wait too long to start doing these practice questions. Jump right in. Number 2, timing matters. In no more area than the bar exam essays, because it is simply difficult to get all this information out, get all the information in your brain onto the page, and connect the facts of a hypo with your rule statements, with the law that you've spent months practicing now, under timed conditions. If you're taking the California bar exam, you have hour-long essays. If you're taking the UBE, you have these half-hour-long essays. Either way, you have to practice under those conditions. You have to understand what that timing means from a practical perspective. If you are somebody who is, when you're doing practice questions, maybe you don't feel comfortable with the timing, so you're actually doing untimed answers, doing untimed essays, and you're writing out these beautiful responses. That's great. That's all fine and dandy, except it's not preparing you for the actual exam. And when you are under those time conditions, maybe in some miraculous feat, you thrive. You despite the fact having not actually practiced it, you do well. But most people, in most cases, in almost every case, that's not going to happen. You need to prepare for the exam like it is the exam. So you need to take timed questions, and you need to understand that spending too much time on any one question can tank the rest of your scores. Understand and prepare yourself to do these essay questions and deliver the best possible answer under the time conditions, and really appreciate that. I know I've touched on that in a couple of these answers now, but it's really, really critical to scoring well on the bar exam essays. Our number one thing I wish I knew before I took the bar exam essays is simply that you need to have a level of cold recall that you probably are ill-equipped for when you first start studying. You are going to need to really study, to really build a knowledge base of the law so that you can recall not just generalized vague rules, but you have to recall the elements of different rule statements. You need to build rule paragraphs that allow you to score well. Your scores on the bar exam essays are going to be premised on the idea that you have a knowledge of the law that allows you to very quickly recall rule statements, 1, 2, 3 elements, and then connect those rule statements to the facts of the hypothetical, of the question itself. So in order to do that, in order to set yourself up for that, you need to really build a strong basis of knowledge. You need to understand whatever that means, whatever that takes for you to do that, whether it's outlining, making these mini outlines, using flashcards, writing out rule statements as you're getting MBE questions wrong. You need to do something to take some step to prepare yourself for exam day, to build that knowledge base, to prepare yourself to have a cold recall level that you probably just don't have or haven't had historically. That does it for us here. Be sure to check us out at barcastaudio.com. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more of these videos. Until later, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye now.